Jesus makes this seemingly, or it ends up being, and we don't realize it, but this kind of controversial statement in John 12, where he says this, and we read it and we're like, this isn't controversial, there's nothing to this at all, like there's nothing big. But he makes this statement in John 12, and he's talking to a group of people where he says this. He says, my purpose, he says, is to give them a rich and satisfying life. The broader, because most of you will know this, the broader story is this. He just said that the enemy comes to do this, or the thief comes to do this, to steal, kill, and destroy. But my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. And I get that you read it and you hear it and like, there's nothing controversial about that. But if you realize the context and who it is that he's talking to, it's actually exceedingly challenging and poking and prodding, because he's talking to a group of Pharisees, they're religious leaders, who have been effectively doing this, that they've been oppressing, putting people down, choosing who it is that is right, who it is that is wrong, who it is get valued by the Father. He's highlighting to them and he's talking to them and he's saying, you guys have got it wrong, you guys are missing it, you guys are misled. And what he's trying to do is highlight to them that you guys are missing it. What you're doing is determining who's in, who's out, who's a Christian, potentially who's not, who's doing good in regards to their relationship with God, who's a saint, who's a sinner, who's all of that. And he's like, you guys are missing it. My purpose is, and talking about those people that society, specifically the church of the time, the religious leaders of the time, were putting down and saying, no, you guys are out. He's saying that my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. Now, I don't know where you sit when it comes to Jesus, what you think of Jesus, what you think of church, whether you like church, whether you like Jesus, whether you do, I don't know where you sit with that. But I think all of us would agree with this thought when it comes to something like this, that all of us are this, that we want to live a satisfying life. We want to live a life that is satisfying. We want to live a rich and satisfactory life. And perhaps it's not necessary, and it wouldn't necessarily be, it's all about money. Like, we want to live a life that is full of exceedingly great wealth. It's not talking about that, and I'm not at all suggesting that. But all of us want to live a satisfying life. As far as a satisfying life being this, it is filled with love. It is filled with friendships. It is filled with really good memories. It's perhaps filled with achievements. It's filled with all these things that we end up taking into our lives and we find satisfaction in that at the end of our lives, perhaps that we stop and we reflect back and we're like, that was a good memory, or that is a good memory. A rich and satisfying life. A satisfying life, realistically, is the life that we all want, which is where our emotional needs are met, our physical needs are met, our mental needs are met, our spiritual needs are met. This is a satisfying life that I think all of us are desiring, and all of us are working towards, and all of us want to arrive at. And then when it comes to Jesus, Jesus turns up and Jesus paints a complete different picture when it comes to the satisfying life, because we try to do what we can to achieve a satisfying life based on our own efforts and our own energy. And Jesus turns up and he realistically says this. He says, I am the way to life. And in fact, he says, if you follow me, you will follow, or I'll give you a new direction to go that will be the place or the way to lead to life. The way to lead to life, or the way to lead to this satisfactory life, a life that I'm enjoying, a life that I like, a life that is good. In fact, the Christmas story, it kind of starts with the wrestling of this. The Christmas story starts with a wrestling of this, in that I touched on it last week, where you got King Herod. And it's just a snippet of his story is in there. King Herod, he discovers that this guy called Jesus is going to be born. He's a newborn king of the Jews. And Herod freaks out because he's like, I don't want my kingdom to be overthrown. And so for those of you that know the story will know that what he does is he orders this decree that all the kids 2 years and under are to be, all the male babies 2 years and under, they're to be put to death, because he's wanting to do his all. He's wanting to do his all to ensure that his kingdom isn't overthrown. Or what he's really doing is he's doing his all to protect the life that he has determined is satisfying. His enjoyment, he's doing his all to do it. Now, I get that none of us, like none of you would try and do that. None of you would go to that length of trying to consolidate and protect this rich and satisfying life that we are attempting to live. But we all do it in other different ways. Nowhere near to that extreme. I'm not at all trying to paint you in that extreme. But we all do it in other ways. Like we end up feeling the need to constantly defend ourselves. Someone says something about us, and that's a strike against my name, my character. So I'm going to deliberately defend myself because I need to justify myself. Or we become self-promoting, where we're constantly wanting people to know the achievements that I have. Look at the things that I have done, what I have achieved, what I have made of my life. We end up doing all these different things because what we're trying to do is we are trying to do whatever we can to consolidate a satisfactory life. But Jesus turns up and Jesus highlights that I'm here to show you a different way. I'm here to show you a different way to life. I'm here to show you a different way that leads to life. I'm here to show you a different way that will give you more fulfillment in life. And Jesus' story even starts that same way as far as Jesus' story. The Christmas story starts with a king try to consolidate his power to keep this life that he was determining and believing was a satisfactory or the satisfying life that he was wanting. And then the other king, the King of Kings, being Jesus, he comes and he is born the opposite, completely opposite. In fact, he's born into poverty. And from the get-go, he starts trying to set the stage of trying to highlight this very thought that the way to life is something else. In fact, what Jesus comes and what he tries to present to people and highlight to people is that you need to choose another way. How you're living, you need to choose another way. You need to choose to follow another way. So Jesus makes that statement to the Pharisees in John 12, like, I have come that they may have, the people that are oppressed, the people that don't feel like they've got any connection with God, the people that don't feel that God loves them, God is for them, God is with them, I have come that they might have a rich and satisfying life. And then he gets to, then a couple of chapters move along from John 12 and gets to John 14. Now, the stage of this is that this is Jesus' last meal with his disciples. Jesus is like sharing the Last Supper. And so right what he says here, this is like after he's washed his disciples' feet. It is after Judas leaves the building to go and betray Jesus. This is just before Jesus heads to the garden to pray, just before he gets arrested and just like hours before he's crucified. And he has this conversation with his disciples. Chiefly the person that pops up in the story is Philip. And Philip and the disciples are wrestling with this same thought and same feeling that you guys do and I do. Like, how do we live a life that is satisfying? And he says to them this. He says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. And he pauses the conversation that's happening around the dinner table. He's like, guys, I want you to get this. It's a bombshell statement that, you know, that rich and satisfying life that you are trying to find, trying to navigate towards, trying to control, trying to keep, I am the way to that. I am the way to living that. I am the way to outworking that. I am the way to that life. In fact, if you want to live that life, the truth of it is if you follow me, you will arrive there. Now, Philip specifically, he kind of pushes back a little bit at this. And he pushes back because Jesus has said some weird things, specifically right here. It's like kind of like he's talking code, and then again, he's going to talk in code. Like it's a bit hard to follow and maybe a little bit hard to understand. But have you got that friend that when they share stories, it makes sense, but it doesn't make any sense at all? And you have to really think, and you squint. So, you know, if you squint, you can understand what they're saying. But can you say that again? And so Jesus had plenty of those moments with his disciples. In fact, like they're trying to work out, like, Jesus, we want to live this satisfying life. Like I kind of feel like my life should mean something. There should be some importance, some value in it. And like, how do we outwork this? And just before this conversation, they've all turned up to the room to have dinner. And Jesus, he ends up washing their feet. And the custom was that someone washed your feet before dinner. And it was always the slave or the lowest in the room would wash everyone's feet. But Jesus, he gets down, he washes everyone's feet. And he turns to them and he says, all right, you guys, you need to follow my example. You need to wash everyone's feet. And like, Jesus, you just washed our feet. They don't need washing again. This is stupid. And plus, I'm not interested probably in washing people's feet. And so like, he starts making some weird things. And then perhaps Philip, he thinks back through some of the different things that Jesus has said, like some of the statements that Jesus has made. If you want to be a really good servant, if you want to be a great leader, not servant, if you want to be a great leader, you need to be the servant. If you want to be this incredible leader, you need to be the one that serves. And right at this moment, this time, like Jesus is talking about, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. I am the way to that rich and satisfying life, but I am kind of a bit lost because you're trying to tell me, Philip's kind of saying that if I am to get that rich and satisfying life, I need to drop down and start washing people's feet. Like, Jesus, this doesn't make sense. Are you trying to tell me that if I really want to be a good leader, I need to serve? That's not the idea of leadership. The idea of leadership is that I lead them and they serve me. And so he starts, or potentially pushing back at it. And Philip says this. He says, Lord, you know what? Just show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. If you just show us the Father, because we've been following you for like nearly 3 years now, and we've been waiting for this moment. So if you just show us the Father, we will be satisfied. We will have the enjoyment that we're looking for. If you show us the Father, we'll be satisfied. And then Jesus, he turns to him and he says, all right, I'm going to spell it out really clearly. Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. So why are you asking me to show him to you? And like, they're probably a little bit confused, because if someone said that to me, I would be confused. Like, if you've seen me, you've seen Sage, because like no, you haven't. She's got long hair. It's a different color to me. Her body shape's different to, like, I would be confused if someone said that to me. And they're probably a little bit confused as well. And he says, don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? And they're probably, again, a little bit confused until he gets to this next part where he says that the words that I speak are not my own, but they're my Father's. Anyone who's seen me, you've seen the Father, and you've seen the Father for this reason, that if you've heard the words that I speak, then you are looking at the Father speaking. And he goes on and he pushes a step further and he says, but if you don't believe that, as far as the words that I speak, perhaps just believe the work that you have seen me do. Just believe the work that you have seen me do, because that is the Father. That is the Father outworking, and that is the Father speaking. And what he's effectively saying is this, that the things that I do, the things that I say, I'm deliberately doing this. I'm deliberately choosing to show you another way. I came into the world choosing another way to come. I didn't come as this triumphant king riding this white stallion. I came completely as a humble king coming to serve. When I've been around you, I've chosen to serve you. I have come to show you a different way. In fact, I've not just done things differently, I've spoken things differently. How I speak, how I interact with people is completely different to how everyone else around you speaks to the people in front of you. I've deliberately taken the time and the effort to connect and care for that person that no one else has taken the time, that no one else has even stopped to notice. I've deliberately done that, and I've spoken to them in a way that says that I see you, that I value you, that I love you. And so what he's trying to highlight to them, the same thing that he's trying to highlight to us today, is that I came and I chose to show you a different way so that you could see the way that leads to life. And then he gets to this next part where he says this, as far as, if you've heard what I've said, if you've seen what I've done, you've seen the Father. And then he gets to this part where he says, I tell you the truth, that anyone who believes in me will do the same works that I have done. Anyone who believes in me, you will do the same works that it is that I have done. If I'm to pick on us as Pentecostals for a minute, we believe in the spiritual gifts, believe in the shiki babas, believe in the laying on of hands and praying and seeing people healed. And I do not at all want to diminish a supernatural, miracle-working God. Believe in that. We pray for healing. We completely believe in that. But here's the thing. So often what we do specifically as Pentecostals is we read that and like, oh, that's all about the supernatural. That is all about that I'll be able to go out and I'll lay hands on people and they're going to be healed. I'm going to lay hands on people with blind eyes and they're going to be opened, like deaf ears. They're going to start hearing. Like it's all about the supernatural. It's all about the signs, wonders, and miracles. It ends up becoming about something that it is, but completely missing the fact of the whole picture. Because this is what we're good at as Christians, specifically some of us as Pentecostal Christians. We can become all about the supernatural, but realistically, we become supernatural jerks. It's a little bit funny. I'm glad some of you laughed, because I thought it was funny when I wrote it. We become supernatural jerks. We become all about something as far as like we'll pray for that person in the prayer line. We'll pray for that person in the supermarket, then abuse someone in the next breath for not doing something the right way or how we thought it should be done. Jesus went around doing miracles, healing people, laying on of hands. But you know the biggest thing that he did is that anyone that connected with him felt seen, felt valued, felt loved, felt cared for, felt like they were in the presence of God, and it didn't matter what their past was. It didn't matter what their today was. It didn't matter what it was they were struggling with. It didn't matter what society said of them. Anyone that connected with Jesus felt seen and noticed. I think that is one of the bigger miracles that we can do with people today, is to choose to live another way that sees people. The other day, the kids and I, we went to Bendigo to pick something up. And I try to orchestrate my life that I'm never late, ever. Doesn't always happen. Late plenty of the times. Late to youth because they forget their Bibles. So we went to Bendigo to pick something up, and I really didn't think, because dads, you get it, you know what it's like. It's tough. It's hard trying to remember it all, isn't it? Like, there's a lot going on in our minds, and to remember one extra thing, it's just impossible. And so I worked out my time of the timing I need to be, but I didn't think that as we were going through Bendigo, it'd be lunchtime, and I have screaming kids in the car, like, feed us, like seagulls. And so we're driving through, and you know what happens? You drive past fast food and like, feed us, mine. Like that starts. It wasn't quite that bad, was it, Georgia? I'm turning it on. It was not that bad at all. But we drive past and we see a fast food thing. I'm like, it's lunchtime. They're hungry, kind of hungry. Okay, we'll stop and we'll eat them. And I have this thought, because it was bad, because there was a traffic light right by the fast food thing. So I had to sit there at the red light and ponder my next move. Do I stop? Do I keep moving? Do I stop? Do I keep moving? There's a park there. Damn it, I'll stop. And so I'm like, we'll stop. We will stop. I'm like, I don't have time for this. I do not have time for this. But it'll be fine. It's fast food. It'll be so quick. And so we walk in there. And I walk in there, and the kids, big eyes everywhere, like trying to work out what do they want. And we work out really quickly what we want and walk straight up to the counter. No one's there. It's so good. This is the best day of my life. Like, there is no one there. And I'm thinking, this is great. We're going to be in and out in 3 to 5 minutes. It's going to be so fast. So fast. This is going to be good. Anyways, you know what's happening. They were fast food for some people, not for us. But what I didn't realize when I went up there, that started to unpack as the minutes went by, was that they were fast food for the people that had already ordered. And what I didn't realize is that there was all these people in the restaurant everywhere that were sitting down, that this fast food restaurant, like, they take your order to you. They go and find you and take your order to you. And so there's all these people sitting down everywhere. And And I'm like, this is going to be so fast because they're all sitting down. So that must mean they're eating and they're finished. I don't know. I didn't take notice of whether there's food there. And they're taking orders. They are starting to come out. And I'm watching the burgers come out. I'm like, that's 1, 2, 3 cheeseburgers. Hang on, that's a fourth. Maybe they messed our order up. It's going to be good. We'll get a fourth cheeseburger for the kids. And then it gets put into that bag and taken to that person. And this kept going on and on and on. I'm like, we're never going to get our food. And I started getting so frustrated. Like visibly irritated, annoyed about how long this was taking, because I start doing this, looking at my watch. Well, I don't have a watch. I started pulling my phone out and looking at my phone. Like every couple of minutes, tap, tap on the screen. Flipping heck, tap, tap. Gosh. And to start with, I was just very composed. And then after a while, I started doing this. And the lip curls. The eyes squint. And then I look at someone, and I started getting really agitated because they were taking a long time. And I thought I was being really composed and no one could see it. But then the kids started coming to me like, it's okay, Dad. Like, sorry, we didn't have to stop. We didn't have to stop. It's okay. We can just leave. I'm like, that's $45. We ain't leaving. We're staying. We're getting this food. Going to work out some story to tell this guy as to why I'm running late now. And so I'm waiting, and then obviously the manager picked up on it because she deliberately didn't let the other people give the food to me. I didn't say a word to anyone, but there must have been something about my body language, because she came up and said, I'm so sorry for how long this has taken, sir. I'm like, that's okay. I turned around and we walked out and we ran because I still had a 20-minute drive and we had 3 minutes to get there. It had taken some time, and I was so frustrated and irritated. And when I got back home, I started pondering and thinking, how high and mighty of me. They didn't cause me to be late. I caused me to be late. I was the one that didn't, it wasn't their fault that I didn't orchestrate enough time to make a stop in the middle, to get something, to continue on. I made this decision that they were really inefficient. But as I stopped and I reflect back, I'm like, they were extremely efficient at how they were functioning things, running things, doing things. It was just that I didn't realize there was a backlog. And I was the idiot that went into a fast food outlet at 12:30, the peak of traffic at lunchtime, expecting to get food within 5 minutes. I was the fool. I was the buffoon. I was the problem. But yet something in my body language said something to everyone around me of my displeasure with them. My displeasure of them. And I got home and I was reflecting on this and thinking about it. And I came to this realization that, look, there's nothing wrong with getting annoyed and frustrated. There's nothing necessarily evil about it. We all do it. You do it. I do it. I obviously did it just a couple of days ago. I'll probably do it again in another couple of days. That's how it works. But the truth is this, that a whole lot of the time you get frustrated and irritated about something that's perhaps holding you up, and it's your own fault. But you project that frustration onto other people. Because we determine that what they are doing, how they are working, how they're doing something is robbing me of the rich and satisfying life that I'm meant to be experiencing right now. But in the end of it, it is our own fault at that time. The reality is this, that when Jesus came into the world to show us a different way. But not just show us a different way, to show us the way that we're supposed to live, so that we're supposed to do this, that we are meant to be in the world, not of the world, to show a different way to the world. We're meant to be in the world, living in the world, but not of the world, as far as we don't operate how the world operates, meaning this, that if you're at the fast food place and they're slowing you up, you would realize this, that I need to operate with grace. How would the world operate? With the same frustration that I outworked with. We're meant to be in the world, not of the world, to show the world a different way. Jesus came to do this, to show us a different way, a way that leads to life. That's what Jesus came to do. So the question that I'd ask you is this: what would it look like to choose another way? What would it look like in your life to choose another way? The next time you find yourself in an argument that is just petty and it's meaningless, what would it look like to choose another way and allow yourself to be wrong? Like, it doesn't, if the argument is meaningless and it's not life or death, who cares? What would it look like to choose another way the next time someone speaks bad about you without feeling the need to try and dish them out and hit them with an elbow and figuratively, and what would it look like to choose another way of living in our lives? What would it look like to choose another way of living? Jesus, in his most famous sermon in the Beatitudes, he lists a whole heap of these different ways of living. Jesus came and was born showing a different way of living, but then he lived a life demonstrating this different way of living, and he preached a lifestyle of living a different way. And he says this, he says in Matthew 5 from verse 38, "You have heard the law that says the punishment must match the injury, like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Like, Rani stole from me, so I'm going to steal something from her. She slandered me out, so I'm going to slander her." Like that, there's tit for tat. It's an eye for an eye, it's a tooth for a tooth. Don't do it again, please. It's a tit for tat. It's that idea that, well, you did this, so it's justified for me to do the exact same thing. And he's like, hang on, whoa, back up. Jesus says this. He says, if someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer them the other cheek too. And he's saying this, that I am trying to tell you that there is another way that you are supposed to be living. And if someone slaps you on that cheek, turn to them the other cheek. Now get this. If you are in an abusive relationship or being abused, he's not saying just turn the other cheek and say, come on, keep going, keep at me. What he's saying is, if you've got that person that keeps slagging you out, that keeps putting you down, you don't follow suit and retaliate and say, well, they said this, so I'm going to say this. And they've said this about me, but you know what? I'm going to drag them down. They think that's bad. Wait till what it is that I have to say about them. He's like, you know what? Who cares? Who cares? Show another way of living. Follow another way of living. And he continues on. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. Don't stop at 1, continue on. I'm trying to show you a different way. If your boss says, hey, we really need some overtime, I really need overtime right now, how about you do it without grumbling? Does that work, Jamie? What he's trying to say is that we need to learn to live from a different way. I'm not at all trying to say our business owners or anything like that, they're slave drivers or Romans, but I'm trying to pull it into perspective. I'm trying to pull myself out of a hole now. I think I'm out. All right, well, let's continue. So I'm definitely out. You have heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemies. And we have this opinion. I don't need to be nice to them. They weren't nice to me. They've definitely become my enemy. I don't need to be nice to them. They're my ex. I don't need to be nice to them. They stole from me. I don't need to be nice to them. They did whatever, but I don't need to be nice to them. And Jesus, he responds and he pushes back on that. And he's like, you know what? If you are only kind to your friends, how are you different from anyone else? You're not. And he's saying, guys, you need to realize this, that you need to choose to live another way, and you're meant to be kind and show grace to every person, regardless of how they've treated you. It doesn't mean that you're going to be friends with them, but regardless of how they've treated you, you're to treat them with grace, you're to treat them with love, you're to treat them and engage with them with mercy. He continues on. When you give to someone in need, don't do it as the hypocrites do. And this is probably a twofold thing. The world would probably do this. You don't give. You don't give to people. You don't tithe. You just don't give. That would be the common consensus outside in the world. You just don't give. But on top of that, when you give to people, don't do like what the hypocrites do. And the hypocrites would do this. They would parade around. So Jesus is talking about the Pharisees, that they would give something and then they'd parade around like, look how much of a tithe that I've given. Like I am a holy person because I've given so much money to the King of Kings. I'm such a holy person. And we don't necessarily do that. But what some people do is they want people to know when they've given to someone else. Or we end up using our giving as a form of manipulation. Because I've given this, now I expect this. We see that in our personal lives, and we see it in our church world as well. People give, and they're like, because I've given, I've invested so much, I expect this to take place. And Jesus is like, you know what? Don't be like those people, but rather do this. Give your gifts in private. And your Father who sees everything, he will reward you. And again, he's like, you guys, you just need to choose to live another way. And he says this, he says, don't judge others, because if you judge, it's going to come back to you. So don't judge others, and you will not be judged. For you will be treated as it is that you treat others. And he's trying to highlight to them that, you know what, I get those people in your life are messy. I get those people in your life have sin. I get that those people in your life, they're doing some really bad things, but it's got nothing to do with you to necessarily be pointing it out and saying, look at what they've done. Look at what they've done. Can you believe that they did that? I can't believe that they did that. Don't judge, and you won't be judged either. In fact, he pushes on it a little bit further, and he starts talking about like sawdust and specks of wood and everything. And he's like, you know what? If you get a speck in your own eye, this is what people do. They get a speck in their eye, and they're like, hang on, there's not a speck in their eye. They see a speck of dust in their neighbor's eye, and they're like, hey, let me get that wood chip out, and you'll be good. But he's like, you guys, you don't get it. You're saying that they've got a speck, but you know what? You've got a huge plank in your own eye, and first that needs to be removed. And what he's trying to say is like, don't judge. How about you deal with your problems and your own problems? And in fact, he continues on. First, get rid of the log in your own eye. Then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. And what he's really saying is this. When it comes to judging and pointing the fingers, when it comes to the speck that's in your eye, until you're perfect, you probably don't have the right to judge and point the finger and say, they shouldn't be doing that. That's wrong. That's wrong. Look at how bad they are. How about you turn inwards and start looking at what it is that you're doing and deal with that? It's like, guys, you need to choose to live another way. Choose to live another way. We're meant to be in the world, not of the world, to show a different way to the world. And that happens when we choose to live another way. On your walls at home, I imagine anyways, that you've got accolades, you've got photos, you've got things that you're proud about. Maybe some of you don't, but I imagine the majority of you have. Something that you can look back and you're like, I am proud of that achievement. I'm proud of that memory. I love that memory. And there's the sense of euphoria that comes with it, because I remember what happened then. That was like the proudest moment of my life. Perhaps it's a photo of your kids. The proudest moment of my life was giving birth to them. Well, I didn't. Sage did. I was there. But like the accolades, the prayer, like it could be your awards, your achievements, your sporting things. I've got photos of my sporting moments, and I look at them, and something fills me with pride and euphoria as I think back, and I remember of them. We went to Swan Hill, complete segue. We went to the ballet yesterday. I twirled. No, I didn't, but I thought about twirling because it's so enthralling watching them do the stuff with their legs. I'm like, I've got to try this, but I'll practice it, then I'll do it for you. Not today, though. But we went to Swan Hill to watch the ballet, and as I went there, I'm like, this was the first rodeo that I won. And it was the swelling of euphoria to a degree. So I remember that time when I was 12 years old, when my dad took me here. I remember the smells. I remember, it felt good to remember that memory. All of us have that, and a lot of us have got that stuff hanging on our walls. But what's not hanging on your walls, it equally has the same sense and same feeling, same sense of euphoria that comes with that, but we don't hang it up, and we generally don't, well, if we're following Jesus' way anyways, we wouldn't be moving forward and telling everyone about it, is those times that we chose to be absolute selfless and serve someone for no benefit for self at all. They're not hanging on our walls. But equally so, those moments of complete selflessness where you chose to serve someone, to help someone, to love someone that could never have the ability to pay you back, and you just wanted to serve them, equally so, that carries the same sense of satisfaction as those accolades hanging on your walls. Perhaps it was as simple as when you paid for the parking for that random stranger. Or you had a friend or someone from church or someone in your life that they were really, really struggling financially, and you put money in an envelope and you put it in their mailbox, and they'll have never, ever have any idea that it was from you. But you remember doing it, and you remember the joy that you felt when you did it, and you remember the joy that you felt when you heard the story of like, I was incredibly blessed by God, or this is so good, someone's been so generous and they've done this. There's something that wells up inside of us. Like that same sense happens when we choose to live another way. When we choose to live another way, that same feeling of euphoria, of enjoyment, of I am walking into the rich and satisfying life that I was created to live in, comes up inside of us. Why? Because that is the way that we were created to love people. That is the way that we're created to love people. The truth is this: the people across the community, across Echuca, across your friendship groups, across your families, across the globe, people are wanting to know that God is for them. And a lot of people, they're convinced that God isn't for them. In fact, they're convinced that God is disappointed with them. And they want to know that God is for them, but they'll never know that God is for them until they realize that you are for them, for no benefit of yourself, but solely for the benefit of them. The Christmas story is this, that God gave his son so that we could receive a gift that we had no ability to repay ourselves. So this Christmas, here's my encouragement. This Christmas, which should be the giving season, which it is so often, but so often it ends up being completely the opposite, where so many of us find ourselves irritated. So we're in that fast food restaurant, waiting for the meals, and it's not coming as quickly as they could, because we waited for our shopping, to do our Christmas shopping until Christmas Eve. No, you won't, because you're coming to church, but like on the 23rd, we get irritated that the lines are long, or what we wanted wasn't there, or the post is taking too long, or whatever it is. We get irritated. How about this Christmas? We do this. We choose to live another way that honors, adores, and worships Jesus with not just our voice, but our actual actions that say, I am going to choose to do this. I'm going to choose to be a person that's in the world, not of the world, showing a different way to the world. Let me pray for you. Father, I want to say thank you, Jesus, that you came. And you came not as this big, as the world would see it, conquering king riding on a white stallion, parading around the town saying, look at everything that I've done. But you came to serve. You came to love. You came to ensure that people would feel seen and feel valued and feel known. And God, myself chiefly fail at that so often. I pray that what you do for us, God, that you are deliberate in connecting with us and challenging us and inspiring us and encouraging us to follow your example of choosing to live another way and choosing to be people that choose to follow your direction, choose to follow your leading, choose to follow your way and reveal to people another way. And God, I pray that as we do that, as each person here leaves here and goes out and leads and loves and serves people, Father, I pray that what happens is people realize that they are seen, realize they are valued, and ultimately realize that they are loved by the King of Kings. In Jesus' name. And everyone said? Amen. All right, so what is not on 10:30 next week? What is on at 5 p.m. next week? Church, here. And you're going to do what? You're going to bring people. You're going to invite friends. Who are your friends and family that don't normally go to church? You know what? It is the best opportunity to invite them to church. So head out, grab a tea or coffee, connect with one another, and I will see you 5 p.m. next Sunday. If you turn up at 10:30, you can help me set up.
No